The Walt Disney Company has made a seismic shift that is being felt all throughout the legacy media. 538, the website that was intended perhaps to control the polling industry, gone, shuttered, deleted, no more. Disney throwing all of their polling dictators out the door. But there's more. ABC News, job cuts, massive, and announced during the Trump speech to Congress. Folks will explain it all with the pollster who had it right all along in the 2024 presidential election. Let's go right now.
You brought up the message that the Democratic Party was disseminating. I'm challenging you on that. That is not what they were doing. I'm not talking about the intent.
We did it.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Pro Channel. It is a joy to have you joining with us today, and we're talking about something that is of great import as we are finding out that the Walt Disney Company will no longer be importing political biases. Oh, come on, we're not going that far. But we will say that the gatekeeping seems to have been torn asunder, and Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen is here to explain what has happened. It is earth-shattering across the world Politico. Mark, welcome back.
Yeah, really great to be here. What a busy 24 hours. After that speech, I find out live on air that Rasmussen reports arch nemesis 538, who kicked us out back in 2023, even though they've ranked us like most accurate before, is dead. And it's just because, you know, what's not in the cultural zeitgeist anymore is lying to people about politics. And so all of these things are going to be losing people and shutting down. See it.
And who would have thought, you know, most people out there don't know. Now, our viewers do, of course, because they have the highest IQ on the internet. But, Mark, most people don't know that Disney, the Walt Disney Company, Mickey Mouse himself had his mousy gloves all over politics and owning 538. We'll get into why and how and when. And, folks, we're going to go over this, too. This is impacting ABC News, Disney Entertainment Network, 6% layoffs. This was coming out as Donald Trump, President Trump, was speaking last night, so adding insult to injury. Before we get into this, though, Mark, you're going to be celebrating today. Could you tell the folks what has changed in your schedule? Because you've got some major personalities, some movers and shakers across the nation who are touting your victory today, sir.
Yeah, I am leaving this show, and I'm going on at 2 p.m. Eastern, Rasmussen_poll on Twitter. And Steve Bannon really liked our segment today, so our show might be going out on his channels as well. Hope everybody comes and watches us dance on the grave of 538.
That's right, folks. And if you've got your 3D glasses, the cork from the bottle may fly out right into your face. Don't dodge it, though. Don't dodge it. All right, here's the article out of That Park Place, folks. If you're not yet bookmarked to the website, well, you should be. It's by Marvin Montanaro. Disney layoffs to impact 6% of staff at ABC News and Disney Entertainment Network's axes. That means gone, deleted, removified 538 political polling site. Let's read just a little bit and then we'll explain. The Walt Disney Company is set to eliminate approximately 200 positions with the ABC News Group and Disney Entertainment Network's division, according to reports. The staff reductions expected to be communicated to employees as early as Wednesday represent nearly 6% of the combined workforce of these two units. ABC News apparently is trying to do a darn good MSNBC impression. This move is part of the Disney's ongoing strategy to cut costs as the company navigates shifting consumer habits, a.k.a. nobody's paying attention to what the legacy media has to say anymore. Why do you think we call them the dinosaurs? Among the most significant changes, Disney is shutting down 538, a political news site known for its election forecasting. The site, which employed approximately 15 people, will be eliminated as part of the cost-cutting measures. 538, originally founded by statistician Nate Zilver, gained prominence for its analytical models that aggregated polling data to predict election outcomes. While the site earned recognition for correctly forecasting all 50 states in the 2012 election, it has also been criticized for its handling of later elections. And it became the arch nemesis of Rasmussen and other pollsters who turned out to be very accurate. And I know you won't say this, Mark, because you're a man of humility, but Rasmussen, and you are, I believe, the lead pollster, sir. Is that correct?
Yeah, head pollster Rasmussen reports.
Rasmussen was the most accurate pollster for the 2024 presidential election, bar none, bar the door there, 538, except you don't have one anymore. Mark, what was 538? How did it work? Why did Disney want to buy it? because it was not just some sort of benign aggregate of polling. This was a political tool that Disney decided they wanted in their portfolio of political tools. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this is like a core fundamental of the left. They like to control information. They like to gatekeep. And I'll tell you what, when we were founded back in the early 2000s and when we accurately called the Bush-Kerry race and we, were polling on Obama, a lot of people got really upset that what used to be in large polling and research organizations and, college campuses and huge mainstream media left-leaning outlets, for an independent upstart to come out and just show everybody up and then not be controllable was really dangerous. So now I think that's one of the reasons that 538 got put into existence. And so they came to Nate Zilver, who was a sports handicapper. And I think, according to my friend Rich Barris, that the 2012 performance that he did was based on leaked internal campaign polling. I don't know, haven't been able to confirm that, but he did really well in 2012. And of course, the media just gushed all over him and they turned it into a digital platform that aggregates polling information. But here's the key. They don't do what Real Clear Politics does, which is just, straight up, let's just take all the polls and average them and show you a link back to the crosstab so you can check yourself. 538 adds a layer of opacity. It adds a layer of selection. And then what they say they do is that they adjust for a pollster's house effect using statistical methods, which should reduce bias. But time and time again, and I can show you a chart, what happens is it increases bias. Yeah, exactly. Let me show you this right here. This is 2024 battleground state polling. The blue line is the results across all the battlegrounds, how much margin Trump won by. The purple line is our average. And you can see when you poll, when you're one pollster, some states you do really well at, some you miss to the right, some you miss to the left if you don't have bias. So you can see I wasn't Trumpy enough in Arizona, but I was too Trumpy in Georgia. And then I pretty much nailed North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. I actually had Michigan going to Harris by almost 1 point. But if you notice, the purple line pretty much lays on top of the blue line. It's a slightly left. We were actually, for a right-wing pollster, we were too left in the battleground states by less than 1 point. So we have polling error.
Hold on just a second, Mark, because you are trying to rush through with humility again. I've got to stop you because you were on this channel as well as on the Valiant Renegade channel, and you actually told our audiences days ahead of the election that you suspected internally that you were slightly to the left. So you even had it right from your gut beyond what the polling was showing.
Well, I mean, that just shows you how much they beat up right-wing pollsters. If I'm to the right by even a half a point, then it's like the end of the world. And so, unfortunately, my target was to be a point to the left, and I did it. And so, and I also said that I expected Michigan would probably go Trump if the other two did as well. And yet I put out polls that showed like my real number because I wasn't trying to reflect, my suspicions with fake like data. And so this purple line shows polling error because polls have error. These things have like, a plus or minus 3%, 95% confidence interval. So there's going to be this scattering around the target. But what you'll notice is I hit the friggin' target. Like I hit it square on. Now, yellow is Real Clear Politics. And because they take all of the polls in the industry, it gets rid of polling error. Some people, are too Trumpy in Arizona and not Trumpy enough like other people. And so that tends to cancel out. So the yellow line has a lot closer shape to the blue line. But you can see, depending on the state, Real Clear Politics was between 1 and 2 points to left. And so that tells you the entire polling industry on average leans Democrat. It did a lot more in previous cycles, but it did it again. They always underestimate Trump. And then what 538 should have done is correct for that. So this turquoise line should have been higher than the yellow line. And look at that, it didn't.
Right.
So
and just to explain again, folks, the closer the line is to that royal blue, right, that cobalt that's running through, the closer the line is to that, the better it is. Well, take a look. Rasmussen is in purple, and they're right next to it. The others are not, and those are aggregates of other pollsters, which goes to show that you guys beat the average of those websites. Mark, let's get into a bit of a meta discussion for just a minute, though. Let's get into a strategic talk. I've got two questions for you, and maybe you can explain this to the audience and make us all a little bit smarter. Question number one, why do you think the Disney company in particular wanted 538? What was the reason for it? And then two, why has it ceased to be of value to them now such that they are closing it down?
I think one is access. The same thing you're seeing everywhere in entertainment and games. People have posited, well, a lot of these news organizations were getting USAID money, and some of them absolutely were. I think if you look at Politico, those overpriced Politico Pro subscriptions are a meaningful portion of their revenue. I don't think that was what was happening here. But we know that higher-ups in ABC and Disney have connections to the Democrat Party and political ambitions, and it's very powerful to be able to put out favorable news for the regime. And I'm not saying Democrat or Republican because I think Republicans use access as a tool as well. And I think that we're starting to see that the problems in Washington, D.C. are not Republican Democrat. It's more like uniparty versus Trump, basically. And so, to have a really powerful gatekeeping tool when you want to get your friends into office, they kicked us out of the aggregate. They didn't want even people knowing that Rasmussen reports existed. Now, Nate Zilver had already left, and they passed it on to this fanatic, G. Elliott Morris. Literally, ABC put a fanatic in charge of one of the most well-known polling aggregators out there, and they immediately proceeded to kick us out, even though I'll show you, put my screen back up, I'll show you what 538 thinks of us. This is a stack rank of pollster accuracy in 2020, done by 538. This is their own analytics. And it has us fifth there. I tell you, we put out a lot more polling than everybody above us. And 3% ain't bad, but we beat. Look at how many people in the industry we beat. And I can tell you the number this time around is pretty close to 1%. So we even improved quite a bit. So
I was going to say, if this were 2024, this chart would even look better for Rasmussen.
Yep, but I guess we'll never know. We'll never know because they kicked this out. And then not only that, they deranked Trafalgar all the way. He's a pretty good pollster, and they put him like ranked number 282nd. And some of their top pollsters, in fact, ABC Ipsos polls, I think was their number 2 ranked pollster in the 538 aggregate this time around. Those people were like 6 points to the left of me all cycle. So clearly it's an op to make Democrats look better. And why are they shutting it down? That's a good question. I know that it's a big black hole that they throw money into. I know that their traffic is most likely down because search volume is down as well. And I think people are just fed up with propaganda. Propaganda is fine when everybody can afford a house and food on the table. But this is really what we're seeing is a populist uprising where the people in DC push too far and everybody's pushing back against authority. And it's like, okay, well, you manufactured fake authority, 538, and now people hate it because they know they pretty much assume that you're lying. And I think that's happening in entertainment as well.
We also need to let people know that, 538 was being controlled apparently by ABC News. ABC News is run by Disney. Now, who was in charge of ABC News? Well, it's Dana Walden. Dana Walden is the potential future CEO of the company, and she's also very, very good friends with Kamala Harris, to such a degree that it is reported and widely accepted that Dana Walden introduced Kamala Harris to her husband. That's the kind of friendship we're talking about. So I don't think it's a stretch to say, well, why would Dana Walden want to have 538 and have it not be just a benign aggregate of polls, but rather be adding these obtuse and hidden rubrics that nobody understands, which then seem to push the site into being an activist pollster site, where instead of getting accurate polling, now we've put our thumb on the scale, and the scale seems to go in one particular leftward direction. Now, another thing that people don't know, Mark, is that The View, which we excoriate The View on a regular basis here because it is just propaganda nonstop. Good. The View is under the umbrella of ABC News. And so I'd like to show this to you because it begs the question whether or not ABC News is just part of the Democrat Party. And we would have a problem with that, by the way, if ABC News was part of the Republican Party. But, either way is wrong. It's definitely not going to happen towards the right. It does to the left. Here's what Whoopi Goldberg had to say to Stephen A. Smith about The View and whether or not it's part and parcel of the Democrat Party.
It's not about him winning. It was an indictment against the Democratic Party and what the Democratic Party was offering to American citizens. We might sit up there and talk about, hey, you should be a party for the working class, which the Democratic Party was once known for. They're not known for that right now. Why? Because their message was catering towards others and towards other issues. And they forgot about the people that brought them there, that elevated the Democratic Party to what it was over these last few decades. That's why they lost. He didn't win.
Well,
the
let's
Democrats
remind
lost.
people what those issues were.
Sure.
Let's remind people what those issues were.
We can do that.
Making sure that families had what they need, making sure stuff is there, making sure that the America that we all grew up in, where you could come and be whoever you were supposed to be or want to be, you still have that right. All these things are the things that the Democrats have always said. But now we have a guy who says, yeah, I'm going to bring down the price of eggs. But first, I'm going to cut all these jobs, and I'm not going to see why they need to be cut. I'm just going to cut them. Because I'm going to put people in. Well, that's what he's doing. He's doing all
and alienate all our friends around the world.
But you're talking about what he's doing. But before you brought that up, you brought up the message that the Democratic Party was disseminating. I'm challenging you on that. That is not what they were doing. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about the intent.
We did it.
I was here too. I was alive and breathing in the air, talking to everybody else.
Yeah,
we did it, Mark. We did it. But they didn't do what they wanted to do, which was win. So let me toss you a theory, okay? So The View, there's Whoopi saying, yes, we did. Yes, that's what we were doing here on The View. My theory is across ABC News, that's what they were doing too. And my theory on how we're getting to this point where they're cutting jobs in mass at the same time that Trump is speaking. How do we get to this point where they're cutting 6% of the staff at ABC News, completely eliminating 538? It's because they're no longer effective. They're tools for a bygone era. They're moving into the new media age. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I would not be surprised if The View is next up on the chopping block, at least in reducing its expenditures. So, Mark, what do you think we're going to see? What will we see as we go forward into the new media? How are these corporations going to adjust as they get ready for the next 2 election cycles with midterms and the next presidential?
Well, it turns out they could do their jobs if they wanted to. CBS polling was way to the left of us. Then they got sued by the Trump administration, and now their numbers match us. And I assume that every one of these people could report. Look at first how out of touch Whoopi Goldberg is. She had to actually think about what Americans care about. And it's all this wishy-washy garbage that she said the Democrat Party stands for. Well, listen, when you stomp on people's rights and make it hard to live, they're going to want real change. And if it's just a bunch of platitudes, they're not going to believe you. And Stephen A. Smith, he's not political. All he is not beholden to all the Democrat interests. So he can go out there and say what he thinks is right. And all of a sudden he's going to be a major contender. He's going to challenge the status quo leadership in the Democrat Party. But this is they're so tied in. There was a leak from Project Veritas or James O'Keefe, even from within MSNBC, where MSNBC said, well, we literally just parrot the Kamala Harris talking points. And now I think there's an aspect of fear about it too, because CBS has an existential lawsuit going on right now. There's new people in the FCC that I think are going to take a really hard look at sort of equal time and election interference. And I think, remember, Sunny Hostin on The View actually had to come out and apologize for a statement that she made about Donald Trump. So I think that they realized that all of a sudden having this very, very salient propaganda out there is like a lightning rod, and it's going to come down on them, and it's not culturally relevant. They lost the culture. The big news, the major political news, and you guys will like this, I don't think you've had a chance to see it, is that just in the last month, Donald Trump's approval rating is highest with 18 to 39-year-olds. That is new. He's actually net plus 22 right now. That's almost a 30-point shift from where he was 6 months ago. And that's because these people were depressed, demoralized. They don't like clown world. They didn't think they have a future. And now all of a sudden they're on Twitter watching what's happening with Doge. That's what's culturally relevant right now. And so
Mark, we actually tied in your reporting. We actually tied in your reporting about the under 40 crowd to what happened at the Oscars. So the Oscar ratings are down, but they still got away from politics, right? Conan O'Brien basically didn't touch on politics except for one single joke. They stayed as far away from politics as they could. Now, the reason the ratings are down, completely different issue. We're not going to go there. But the reason I think that Hollywood, and you tell me what you think about this, the reason I think Hollywood and the celebrities like Selena Gomez, right? She was out there crying for the children, but she's dried her tears. She's good now. She's put her $1 million necklaces back on and she's happy. She's happy-go-lucky. The reason that's happening, the reason the influencers have decided to stop influencing towards the left, I think is because of that polling. I think because you're showing that that Hollywood has completely lost their cultural cachet with the young people, and they can't keep going that way, or else it completely disrupts and destroys the entire celebrity ecosystem.
Yeah. I think I would go a step further from a politics perspective and say that what we're uncovering is an existential threat to the country. Like the amount of grift and fraud and uniparty theft that's going on in DC, it's going to uncover, I think it's coming out that it's trillions of dollars. And that really all of the problems with our economy is the government crowding out private companies and strangling our economy. And so that was perpetrated on them by the politicians. And this is like after trampling on their rights with COVID and after weaponizing the government. And so we're just in a situation where in that setting, like when these people barely can afford ramen, are they going to sit on their couch and watch a bunch of out of touch millionaires who are completely in a bubble? It's not going to happen. And they'll go to a movie. They will still go to a movie. But, you know, the only movies that succeed are ones that are good, that they trust, that it's like, oh, I heard really good things about this. Then I'll go. Then it's a hit. And that's not what Disney's putting out, right? Like that's not what Disney's putting out. So they have a really tough problem that you can't really fix by just, you know, the pendulum swung too far. It's got to swing back. So that's great that all your stuff's not going to be woke anymore. That doesn't mean you're going to be relevant all of a sudden. And they've lost it.
That's right. And, you know, I think the folks out there have realized that all of these, you know, the hundreds of billions of dollars and the waste and the corruption that's going out, that as that moves in the direction away from them, you know, Eastern Appalachian Kentucky could look like Monaco if the government spent the kind of money on them that they do on other places you've never heard of. Now, Mark, you brought up that MSNBC and CNN and CBS, like all of these companies are facing existential crises. All right, take a look at this, and I want to get your thoughts on it because ABC now is starting to look a lot like MSNBC in terms of job cuts. And I just want to show you where this goes if these companies are not careful. Charlie Kirk has this one. It says, "This is genuinely the most repulsive comment I've heard in a very long time from anyone on television." It goes on to talk about MSNBC's Nicole Wallace and what she says. We're going to play it for the folks out there. Mark, I'd love to hear what you think about how this plays with the people at home and whether or not the legacy media can survive if this is their narrative. Or do you think that from a financial, economic standpoint, they must shut up these people who are destroying their financial interests every time they open their mouths? Here's the clip from MSNBC. And, well, folks, this is where ABC could be if they don't get a hold on things. Here we go.
I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to.
All right, we'll pause there because she's going to say a word that's going to get us in trouble with YouTube. But essentially, this crazy lady, this pundit for the people, Mark, she watches a child who has brain cancer and has been given an honorary badge for the Secret Service. She comes out and says, I hope that he doesn't delete himself. This kid, Mark, and they put her on TV, on live. And, this is why you're not going to have the cable news channels living much longer in their current form. Maybe they'll just become digital spaces. Maybe they'll become places like YouTube channels and that's it. I don't know, but this can't go on. Mark, you've got some polling on this, I believe. What do you got?
No, don't put this up. I was trying to find stuff on the Capitol riot, and I'm not going to be able to on short notice. But basically, what you see here is this trend of they're all activists. You said the word. The right word is activists. It really is. And so if you had an objective person that had integrity, was trying to do a good job and report to people, and you're like, no, your stuff is like, they think you're lunatic. You're saying things that don't connect with people. You'd say, oh man, that's bad. I should stop doing that or I'll have no ratings. And so they know that they're doing this and they haven't corrected. So I can only assume that they absolutely despise Trump. And here's the problem. What Trump is doing is what is culturally relevant. I'll say that over and over again, because we talked about Disney favorability here. Well, guess what? The Department of Government Efficiency is way more favorable than Disney is. I think the number was 49% last time. Doge has a 55% favorability rating, net plus 11. We asked people, how angry are you at the waste, fraud, and abuse in the government? And we got 7 out of 10 Americans at least somewhat angry, 45 very. And then just look at the CBS Snap polling after the president's speech. And every single one of these mainstream media outlets is banging on about how, oh, Trump said this, it's horrible. Oh, Trump said that, it's horrible. Well, meanwhile, like 3 out of 4 Americans, like a lot of Democrats, a lot of independents say, yeah, that speech was great. I love what Trump's doing. So that's where we're at. Now we're at about every one of these things is a strong majority, even more favorable than Trump. And they're focusing on Trump approval, trying to drive it down. And Trump approval doesn't matter. Here's what matters. 62% of people approve of Trump's program of mass deportations. From CBS, like people approve of Doge and the cuts he's doing. Like it's just, like over and over again, that's the scenario. And they're not going to be able to cover that stuff without the Trump hate shining through. And so I think they're just going to cut themselves to the bottom. And you're going to see this trend continue of people like Jim Acosta and Dan Lemon. And now they're all going to open up podcasts and maybe they'll scratch out a living. But
that's right. They're going to have lemonade stands. Mark, question though, and I don't normally ask you this on air, but you wouldn't happen to have any polling about Elon Musk, would you, in terms of what this is doing to him? Because I kind of see Elon right now as the king of the new media. I mean, he basically made all of this happen, whether people like it or not. The purchase of X really was the breaking down of the gates that protected legacy media, and it has now been obliterated. Over time, I'm curious, Elon continues to be there. He's very associated with Doge, and I just wonder, there's reports that people aren't buying Teslas in Europe now and all of this, and you got to think that Elon's a smart guy. He's got to be looking at some polling as well, and he's got to be thinking, you know what, it pays me well, and it pays my business as well to be here. I don't know, but that would be something interesting to watch to see. Is that part of a legacy narrative that people hate Elon now, or is there something to it? I don't know, and I'll be curious over time if you guys can get something on that.
Well, we polled Elon in that same set with Doge, and Elon was like 1 point less favorable than Trump. I think at the time, Trump had 53 and Elon had 52. And that puts him basically ahead of every other politician that isn't Trump. Really high approval ratings right there. And so I will say there are a lot of people that obviously like hate Elon, and especially what's rich to me is all those people over in Europe who are way closer to World War III than we are. And we enabled their easy socialist lifestyles by funding their national defense for the last couple of decades. And then they do this to us. Like, what an insult. But anyways, a lot of people hate Elon, sure, and he's probably going to have financial impacts and ramifications from that. But what he's doing is he's being a leader. He's doing the right thing. And we're going to need a heck of a lot more people like that if we're going to reform all of the institutions that have failed. And so it's like, this is not a time of largesse and comfort. The bill is due, and he's trying to pay his $1.05. And I think he's going to keep doing it. But this is, I think public opinion will be important here. I'm going to watch it. And I think it's because we don't have time to get into it, but the aspect of the fourth turning here, everybody's going to focus on public opinion because they're going to try and undermine Trump's agenda. But I think where Trump is at is that he sees a very rapidly dwindling window in which he has to go full speed ahead to fix all this garbage, to root out all of the stuff that all the companies aren't going to be able to root out themselves. And he's doing that to the government.
and not to get too political, this is a conversation for another day. I actually think that the speed that Trump is moving means he might have a 200-day window instead of a 100-day. We can talk about that another time. Mark, though, it is a time absolutely to be jubilant and to celebrate your victory. You have vanquished the dragon, which was attempting to hold you down. You are still standing, sir. Rasmussen reigns supreme, and it's got to be a good feeling. Tell the folks out there where they can find real truth in polling and reporting so that they can know what's really going on in the real world today.
Well, I try to be accurate, but the one thing I can guarantee is I'll always be honest. So my Twitter handle is Honest Pollster. We're also at Rasmussen_poll on Twitter and YouTube, and we're going to be streaming real soon across Getter, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So hope to see everybody there.
There you go, folks. Get over there and subscribe. Follow the content as fast as you can. The story for today, ABC News slashing its staff at the same time that Trump was speaking. 538 gone. The legacy media losing the tools in the tool belt. Folks, you can help us, though. You can widen the belt that we have, the reach that we have. Send us far and wide by clicking that like button. Share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment right on down below and let us know your thoughts on all of this. And folks, until the next time, we have the honor of being invited into your day. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Oh.
What are you doing?
Well, you see, I wanted to get some inside scoops on Disney and their different corporations, if you know what I mean. So I figured by looking into this fistbowl and sucking it randomly with my own energy that I pay for, you paid for, I could do the whole experience where you can be a master and spy on your targets.
You're an idiot. If you want to get the inside scoop on Disney or even other media organizations, you should check out thatparkplace.com and subscribe to WDW Pro's YouTube channel. That'd be way easier, more accurate, and less dumb.
Are you saying I won't get accurate information this way?
No, you can't.
Who'd have think?